to IEBC issues and exactly what is going on and what the law says. Our guest is already seated. He is coming through on a previous conversation, and we're doing that in just a short while. But I want you to take a moment to imagine that through everything that you need to do when it comes to business to empower and support your tools, that you have a trusted ally by your side. Imagine that. That's the promise that I&M Bank gives to you. And it's saying it can turn your aspirations into reality. It could be a new business venture. It could be your child's education. It could be securing your future. Whatever it is, I&M Bank is here for you. So flexible financial solutions to personalized guidance. I&M is saying we are on your side, championing your progress and celebrating your successes. So don't just bank. Don't just bank. Build your future with a partner who actually believes in you. Experience the power of on-your-side banking and find out more at any I&M Bank branch close to you. And remember all the time that I&M Bank is on your side. Wakili Danston Omari has said, you know what? You have an opportunity when it comes to the next election to do something. That so long as you've been granted the opportunity, you can do it. But there seems to be certain cogs in the wheel every now and then that seem to slow us down. And those are some of the things that we're going to be looking into. Before that, I want to share today's proverb with you, Wakili, and we'd like to get your interpretation of the same. We're in Mozambique this week. CT would normally share that proverb with you, but he'll be back next week. But in the meantime, allow me to do that, right? The Mozambicans say that the leech that does not let go, even when it is full, will die on dry land. The leech that does not let go, even when it is full, will die on dry land.
Yeah. Know when it's time to quit. Don't stick till you become irrelevant. Don't force yourself on people when they are fed with you. Just know there's an expiry date on every product on the shelves of a supermarket. Once that reaches, just quit. You turn into poison. You turn into a toxic thing nobody wants to see. Indeed. And you will be dead on a dry land where there's no tree to even give you a shade over your. Thank you.
Let's go, because here we are. And right after the new year, we started hearing rumblings, okay? We were waiting IEBC since 2022. No constitutionally put together IEBC was in place. We had, after the election, Chirera 4 out. That meant that you had just a few left. And then the term of the chairperson came to an end, so he was done, and may his soul rest in peace. I'm not saying done from the job, and then unfortunately, health issues. And then we saw other commissioners who then their term expired. So essentially, for all intents and purposes, the commissioners who were needed to ensure the running of the IEBC then didn't exist. And then they were called, they were push and pull, come on, because it was then that it needed to happen, that a new IEBC needed to be in place. And it needed to be a committee that was then constituted to say, all right, we are going to start calling for applications. We are going to start calling and start doing vetting for these individuals. Now, even at that point, we started having problems. That even the committee that was supposed to now start nominating had Kasoro. And people were saying, okay, so what are we going to do about this? Because it's already partisan. So even those people that they will select will have a problem. We said, okay, no, everything is okay. Whew, we moved. Then they made the selection. And the names were presented to the president. And waiting for the president to now say yes. And then from there, they would go back to Parliament, and Parliament would say, because the president had said yes, we say yes. But then somebody went to court and said, hang on a minute. These 9 names that you guys have given, a number of them have issues. And the court said, voila, you are correct. There could be issues here. So until such a time as when it is deemed that either these individuals have been cleared or 1 or 2 of them must be removed on that basis, for now, what is it? Vetting of those individuals is halted. What? What does that mean exactly?
Well, Kenyans...
Bearing in mind, sorry, Wakili, that we were told that by the end of May, there would be an IEBC in place. Meanwhile, the court is already being told that the general election for 2027 will be at stake. Why? Because the redrawing of electoral boundaries needs to happen with an IEBC in place. And now we don't have any of those things. Civic education, which is supposed to be ongoing, voter registration is supposed to be ongoing, which could happen without these individuals. But for all intents and purposes, this process that was going to lurch us into the next phase has been halted. Please.
Very, very, very fundamental to this question is that Kenyans need to understand the meaning and import of IEBC. Governments, that is the executive, headed by the president and his cabinet, the legislature, headed by the speakers and the members of parliament, both in Senate and National Assembly, come into office through a political process called a general election. This general election, Kenyans spoke loudly in on 27th of August 2020, Kibaki when he promulgated 2010, that the IEBC is an independent commission. The process of recruitment of the IEBC was spelled in the Constitution. A select committee to be appointed. Then the select committee advertises for people who are qualified to be shortlisted and interviewed. Names are presented to the president. The president then approves the names, then sends those names to parliament for vetting. And once they are vetted, they are sworn in and they become commissioners. In all this process, constitutional safeguards were put in place to ensure there is no abuse of office or there is no interference with this process to bring in people who are cronies or people who are not fit to sit in the office because of the sensitive nature of the mandate of the IEBC. 4 commissioners were ejected in a manner that was very, very dramatic, in a manner that completely bordered on illegalities. I remember I defended them at Justice Mchelule's commission.
You refer to the Cherera 4?
Yes, I appeared and defended them. But the state had no ears. The state had only eyes. They saw, they never listened to us. They kicked them out. The 3 remaining commissioners were supposed to retire. They were allowed to serve and retire as per their term. The president, in his wisdom, did not institute processes to start recruitment of another IEBC commission. This being either one, he didn't know that was his mandate, because if he knew, he could have started that. 2, the advisors, remember, this is the executive that has the largest number of advisors in this country. The advisors misadvised the president, or if they advised, the president ignored their advice. There was no steps to institute the process of putting in place the IEBC. When at last politics or Mandamano came in, an animal called NADOC, an informal thing of a discussion was initiated,
NADCO.
And NADCO was born. In that, political interests were factored in, not national interests. It went to the shelf. When the handshake has come, the Baba and William Ruto's handshake, now we have a semblance of a select committee that was challenged in court. The select committee was not inclusive. The select committee was more tilted towards a particular achievement. That may be as it is. The select committee did the most interesting thing that has never been done in the whole world. Advert is done, people apply. Shortlisting is done. The most prestigious newspaper called the Standard, carried the name of the applicants and those shortlisted. All of a sudden, from nowhere, from the bush, new people are brought that these are also appearing for the interview. Then Kenyans are saying, you didn't apply. The timelines were set. How did you come to be in this list? The wrangles proceeded.
These were things that actually happened. There was a list that was published.
Yes.
But then suddenly, when the interviews
are
going on, then there's some 6 people who now were found on the list.
The final list of the people names who have been presented to the president, these masqueraders are in this list. They were not there. So Kenyans have gone to court and asked, are we going to do things at the whims of somebody, or are we going to run this country arbitrarily without the constitutional safeguard? The judiciary has said, okay, hold on. Don't tell us about timelines. You knew about these timelines. Don't use the question of timelines to do illegalities. The courts have refused, and they have put a halt.
Actually, Wakili, you may also want to tell us, because we would love to understand as Kenyans, what goes on in the mind of a person who presents themselves before that selection committee, knowing very well that there is Article 88 of our Constitution that spells out who qualifies to be an IEBC commissioner. And they go there knowing that I am a public servant. I am sitting as the CEO of the political parties. Another one knows that they vied in the previous 5 years. They were on the ballot, and they offer themselves. Shouldn't we have punishment for people of that kind? You wake up knowing very well that first and foremost, you are not qualified. So you waste taxpayers' money going before that committee. And you sit there and you go through an interview. And then the committee, even these members of this committee who forwarded the names, what was going on in their brains? Because you have read Article 88 of the Constitution, and in its plain, simple English, is saying that if you had vied in the last election, you're not qualified. And if you're a public servant, you're not qualified. This is not a public servant who we are guessing. They hold a state office that is known, that is so peculiar, that has so interacted with Kenyans, and they are offering themselves for that interview. Wakili, how do we deal with Kenyans of that kind?
Retired Chief Justice Emeritus David Maraga put this in a language that is very interesting. A regime that says utadu. Utadu. I'm a public servant. I've been instructed to put my papers in because I'm assured I'll be a commissioner. The process has gone up to now. It is the court that has stopped them. So the question that needs to be answered in question, the people we have hired in that select committee, these people are paid by us. These people took an oath to defend the Constitution. These are the people who should be charged and should be arrested for abuse of office. I saw my good friend Natebea being arrested and charged for abuse of office. Who has abused the office more than the select committee? Nobody will arrest them because the arrester and the one who appointed is one and the same thing. And that is why this country needs really to rethink and re-engineer ourselves. Are we going to have somebody taking our resources and bringing strangers? Let me tell you, that IEBC selection committee, they could have brought Rwandese. They could have brought Somalis. They could have brought Ethiopians. They could have brought Americans and forwarded them as candidates.
Why do you say that, Wakili?
I saw it during the time 2022 when principal secretaries, the position was advertised. And the cabinet ministers, the principal secretaries. Another list came from nowhere. There was a first list, an advertisement was done, of 530-something people advertised. Another list again came of another 200. The list that made to be the principal secretaries is a second list. So this is a tradition, and this is a norm that we are seeing developing in this country. Do we need to advertise for a job? Number
If
two,
you know the outcome.
if the outcome is already known, if you look at the people who applied for the IEBC commissioners, that is not the best of the country. Because the best of the country have now said, you don't bother. Already the people, the position you are applying for, the people already are being inducted at the IEBC. They are already working. They are waiting to go through the conveyor belt for them to be sworn in. And that is the mystery that this country is facing.
For purposes of clarity, Wakili, what you're essentially saying here is that from the very beginning, it was known who the individuals would be who would sit, number one, even on the select committee.
Yes.
Number two, then those individuals who would be selected to be
Yes.
commissioners, who would be selected to be chairperson and deputy and CEO. That was known from the beginning. So we were fed towards a waste of resources, waste of time, waste of everything for the last 1.5 months. Is that what you're saying?
That is what I'm saying. From the inception of the select committee to the names to be shortlisted, to the names to be appointed, to the conveyor belt called parliament, where anybody can be taken to parliament, and the members of parliament only have eyes. They don't have ears. They pass. It's a conveyor belt. And somebody is sworn in, and you ask yourself, why don't we just allow the executive to handpick and swear these people in? The charade that we have faced is a charade of musical chairs. It makes no sense to apply for a job anymore in this country. The people are already in office before the advert is done. They are working. The only thing remaining is the normal procedures to appear to be that the rule of law and due process has been followed. And that is what we are saying. Is it now a replica that 2027, therefore, if these guys have been appointed through this flawed process, 2027, already they know who will be the president, who will be the deputy president, who will be the member of parliament, who will be the senator for Nairobi. This country needs to be very serious on how we make the law to be perfectly done and be seen to be done.
I think Gen Zs have made a decision, and actually they're engaging and they're saying, and one of the things they decided is that on the voting day, forget IEBC, on the voting day, every Kenyan will be an IEBC official.
True.
And what they said, because the law is very clear, that what has been cast in this classroom, the results are supposed to be pinned at the door.
It's final.
So what Kenyans have decided, and I love Gen Zs for this and I encourage them to continue in that direction, is that they want to take a photo of what, if it's Olympic primary school, class number 7A, these are the results. They will post it on all social media platforms so that those people who have been doing funny acrobatics at Bomas of Kenya will have no place to hide. Because the minute you announce, they tell you, wait a minute, we were in Olympic primary school or we were in Jamhuri primary school. And for that particular classroom, those were not the results. The results we have already shared everywhere. So Kenyans have decided to take vigilance to another level. So even as they elect IEBC, I think they need to realize that Kenyans have also decided to become an IEBC of some sort. And Kenyans have decided that they are also going to bring accountability mechanisms to another level. And so it will be very difficult for them to do this. And I like the challenge that the government was given. They were told, hey, look here, you can literally actually get all your brothers and sisters and put them there. But the votes in the manner and style in which they will be cast will be so many for the candidates they want or against the candidates they don't want. Now you have your own brother or sister telling you, ulini appoint me ni wenyu, but things are very different here. It's so hot, we can't steal. So, Dunstan Wakili, tell us now, this matter goes to court. Do you think there was, don't you think it was deliberate on the part of the state to make sure that some of these people literally do not qualify so that we do not have an IEBC?
There is the conspiracy theory that the sitting government has become completely paranoid in terms of the fear of the electorate. and they might not be wanting to meet the electorate on the year 2027. But the questions that are there, in the event that there is no election, what happens? The Constitution of Kenya envisages an executive lasting not more than 5 years. The only time the Constitution envisages is during the pendency of an election petition, the presidential petition, and the power must be handed over in a civil manner. This country cannot be run through an unconstitutional process. Governments in Kenya are created through a constitutional mean. That is the Constitution speaking. Nobody can form government outside the constitution of this country. So anybody dreaming that they can extend their life, anybody dreaming that there cannot be an election, those are wishes that will not see the day of the end of the day. Elections will be done, and the winner will be announced as per minor Kiai decision of the Supreme Court. At the polling, that stream, actually not a polling station, the stream, in a polling, I vote at Nyamira Primary School. There are around 20 polling booths.
Yes.
That one where I vote, the results of the president there is final. You don't need to compare to the next
stream.
To the next stream. And the Kenyans are now saying, every Kenyan now is buying a smartphone. The question about formal news coming from boomers of Kenya will not be an S. Remember, remember the first time Baba contested, there was an attempt to set up a tallying center that was independent of IEBC. The state attacked it and destroyed it. Last time, there was almost a similar tallying center. For example, UDA had their own tallying center. Kenya Kwanza had their own tallying center, while IEBC had their tallying center. And the president has come out very clearly that they knew they have won the results before IEBC announced the results. So what is going to happen in 2027? The technological development is going to be the insurance that if you don't carry people to go to vote, you've lost.
Indeed. We're looking into then the intrigues around the IEBC. I mean, just looking at things that have happened up until this point. So now that this case is before court, in terms of the petition that was brought by 2 private citizens, what happens next? And that's what we'd like us to go into as we continue with this going forward. Wakili Danstan Omari is in the studio with us today, and we're looking at, okay, the team essentially that decides or that oversees an election right now is in limbo. Electoral boundaries are supposed to be redrawn. That should have happened already. And they're already telling us that without an IEBC in place, we might have a space whereby the general election 2027 is at stake. Is it? According to the law? We'll come back and look at that. Good morning. It's 9:30.
In the face of life's uncertainties, Equity makes sure you're always insured. Visit any Equity branch near you to get your insurance cover today. Equity, Karibu member.
Panga mwambie msaidie. Hivyo. 5 seconds. Who was the first human to go into space? Give me the answer. Give me the answer.
Elon Musk.
Pardon?
Elon Musk.
A motorcycle?
No sound.
Calling my husband. Calling the office.
Your health, your questions, our mission. So what do you look out for?
Health Digest, your trusted guide to living better, longer and healthier, is back. And it is bigger and better.
We just gonna carry on with the treatment.
From cutting-edge medical breakthroughs to everyday wellness tips, we uncover the facts, bust myths, and bring you expert insights that matter.
Our target for tuberculosis is to make treatment much easier.
Whether it's fitness, nutrition, mental health, or medical advancements, we break it down in a way that's easy to understand and act on. Stay informed, stay empowered. Don't miss Health Digest with Gloria Milemo every Saturday at 9 p.m. only on KTN, where your health is our top priority.
Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
We'll continue with these conversations with Wakili Dancing Mari. So now, Wakili.
Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Where certain individuals who then have been passed, essentially, and then names given to the president, who would then send them back to Parliament, they've said, you know, there's something wrong here. And the High Court has said, well, let's halt this. What does this portend moving forward?
The quorum of the IEBC the question about quorum went to the courts, and court said the IEBC has a quorum when there are 3 commissioners in place. The judge is aware of the impending delimitation of boundaries. The judge is likely, I'm not discussing what the judge will do, but as a legal practitioner and a constitutional lawyer, the judge is likely to vet, to look at the names in terms of those who have no problems. If he'll find 3 names that have no problems, they'll be cleared to go to vetting, and they will be appointed as IEBC commissioners. Then the work of the IEBC will proceed. The others that will be found to have infiltrated the list and they have issues, the judge will recommend they will not be vetted. That is the Solomonic decision to save the country from completely putting the country into a standstill. But that is the judge's decision. I'll not interfere, neither will I influence the judge. But for the benefit of the public interest, that will be the best way to deal with it. If the commission chair is found to be wanting, still the commissioners who will go there will nominate a chair.
From amongst themselves?
From those ones who have no issues. They will run the IEBC until the chair comes. Why do I say this? Because the chair of the IEBC, there is always somebody, they sit and nominate who will be his deputy. And he does that administrative role. So that is likely to be the solution. But in essence, we are learning one thing. A country cannot be held at ransom because of the question of necessity. That you either take this water, because anyway, you are going to die. You better take it, but it has poison. The country and the judges are very clear. They will dispense justice without fear or favor, telling them this is an issue. I saw the same question over the BBI question. The same argument of necessity, the same argument that the country is collapsing. The judges stood firm and said the country must be governed by the rule of law. So the way forward, in my own view, Kenyans should not worry. The judges don't live in heaven during the night and come down on earth to sit in their courts during the day. They live with us. They know what is there. The judges are aware what happened in 2007. They were adults in that time. They saw how the post-election violence reared its ugly face. The judges are seeing how the political temperature has risen very heavily immediately after the 2022 election, and the need for certainty to be there so that Kenyans can do their businesses as they are. But the judges have a duty not to ignore the law, not to give the people who want to break the law a leeway to do that.
Wakili, what's your take on the delimitation of boundaries? We know it is past due. We know that time has passed. It's an IEBC responsibility. And now the IEBC constitution is in limbo. Though, by the way, when there is need to impeach a deputy president, it appears IEBC is duly constituted. But when there is need to delimitate boundaries, it becomes that the same IEBC is not there. What is your take on this? Should we go into the 2027 elections without delimitation of boundaries? Or should the delimitation of boundaries happen? And if it should happen, what happens because it is actually time barred?
I gave a roadmap long time ago, 2 years ago, that the Attorney General should advise the IEBC Secretariat to move to the Supreme Court to get an advisory on the question of delimitation of boundaries. That opinion was later picked by the Attorney General, who left, Justin Muturi. He wrote again to the IEBC and told them, seek an opinion from the Supreme Court that this is the situation we are in. Give us a way forward. What is the basis of that advisory? In 2013, the Constitution came into force in 2010. The first election was to be conducted in 2013.
Yes.
It was supposed to be conducted in August. The government sought an opinion from the Supreme Court that schools are
in session.
The weather is hostile. They gave reasons. And the elections were pushed from August to December by the Supreme Court. It is not the first time that an election has been pushed by the Supreme Court. So the delimitation of boundaries, and that is why the people who have been heading the Secretariat should be investigated and be arrested for abuse of office and abdication of their mandate. By now, the limitation could have been done. I gave another opinion, which very few Kenyans agreed with me, that in all public offices, you don't vacate office without handing over to somebody. All public officers hand over their offices to somebody.
An incoming.
The Matiangis were left in office. The cabinet of Uhuru was left in office until Ruto's cabinet was approved. When there was a necessity for a cabinet meeting, the president called Uhuru's cabinet. He chaired it and they passed cabinet resolution to run the country. So my view then was that Chebukati and the two other commissioners, an advisory was to be sought from the Supreme Court that because we don't have who you are handing over, the Supreme Court allows them to be there as gatekeepers. In the unlikely event of anything, they can conduct an election. My brother, let us look at this. Today, the President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency Dr. William Ruto, dies. God forbid. After one day or after 1 hour, his deputy, my own lecturer, Professor Kindiki, dies. The next person to take power by constitution is a speaker for 60 days. A general election must be conducted. There is no IEBC. What constitutional crisis is Kenya facing? Nobody imagines that can happen. It is a legal, a very serious abstract, but it can happen. Just so, the agency, when my client Gachagua was removed from office, it took only 3 hours for Kindiki to be sworn in. The argument was that in the event the president is incapacitated,
we need somebody,
or he dies, what happens? Yet at that time, the speaker was there. But the urgency of that constitutional crisis made Professor Kindiki to be, Gazette notices came around 10 of them. Within 2 minutes, he was sworn in. The country is sitting on a very dangerous ground. This country is ours. I said, we are not going to Trump's country. This country is ours. That constitutional crisis. And that's why we are appealing that the court uses its wisdom, isolates 3 commissioners who have no issues. They be vetted and be sworn in. The remaining ones go to the...
So there really is no merit in this case, what we are saying, that rather than the whole process come to a standstill because there are 3 that have a question mark behind them, that you can actually allow the other 4 who may not have an issue to then go ahead. For the purposes of having an IEBC in place for all of these other things to go on.
The JSC Act that deals with judges is the only act that says only one name is sent to the president of the CJ, and the president just endorses. In the IEBC Act, names are forwarded to the president. He decides who he will pick and forwards to Parliament. Therefore, there is a room for numbers. 2, the people who were left out, who had no issues, these ones will be removed. Those whose names were never taken to the president can be considered. Just like in Parliament, the list of nomination, if you are nominated, there's a list.
Yes.
They will check those ones who had done very well. But the names were only eliminated because of their ethnicity, because of their political inclination, because of them being very educated. The judges will say the list of the people, give us the list and the marks these people scored. These 3 forward to the president to nominate, to avoid another scenario of advertisement, interviews, and that. So the judge, I said, does not live, judges don't live in heaven, they live on earth. And they are hearing, and I'm sure the judges listen to Spice FM. They are listening. The advisors from State House are listening. The country is listening. This is a very expensive legal advice I've given for free.
Okay, I think there's something, Wakili, that we would want you to tell us, because I've had people sentimentalizing the appointment of Professor Makau Mutua to be the presidential advisor on justice and actually on matters human rights, and we know him as a prolific lawyer. But how did it happen that we are paying 1 billion to advisors, and such names and such problems would still be announced from State House? What is Professor Makau Mutua doing? What are some of these advisors doing if names of people who literally are holding public office, names of people who have vied in the previous election would find him? And even what is the Attorney General doing? Because this is the principal advisor to the president. Why would they release such names and they have an Attorney General? Why would they release such names? Professor Makau Mutua, don't you think you owe Kenyans a refund? Because so far, the advice you've given legally is not helping the country.
My professor of law, a distinguished professor of law. The practice of law is quite difficult. There is the principle, the one instructing you. Like in this matter, my clients are my principal. I can advise them. This one will lead you to 10 years imprisonment. This one will take you to 5 years imprisonment. This one will acquit you. Then the person tells you, who told you I wanted to be acquitted? I want to go in for 10 years. So I take the advice of 10 years. The president has a battalion of advisors.
Yes.
It starts from those appointed, unknown to the public. It goes to those unknown, the NIS. The cabinet are the presidential advisors. All media houses are advising their president. 55 million Kenyans are advising the president. It is the question of taking that advice. And the good argument is this. If you advise a client who is not ready to take that advice, you resign. You carry the burden. You carry the burden because you are being paid by us. You are not being paid by your principal. All the advisors of the president are employees of the citizens of the Republic
nation.
of Kenya.
Yes.
And therefore, they owe their duty to us. If they are advising the president and the president is not taking the advice, they resign. If they are misadvising the president and the president is doing things that he has been advised wrongly, they have a burden to clear their names and they will be surcharged for that miscarriage of providing advice. Lastly, are these people calling themselves or who have been baptized the name of presidential advisors, do they have the capacity to advise? Advisory role is not how many degrees one has. Get it very clear. Advisory role in terms of advising a CEO, in terms of advising a president, is that you have a certain constituency you reach and you pick the information of that constituency, which must be a majority to take to the president. So an advisory role is not how many books you have read and how many theses you have written. You must have a constituency. You must have ground to the ear. The president is a political creature. The executive is created out of politics. So what is the employer wanting? For example, when you look at affordable housing, the question you ask yourself, have you seen anybody who in 2022 who voted, did those people come from their houses? Everybody came from their houses. Who told you that the houses they came from, their homes, are unfit? They have not asked for a house. An advisor goes to the public and asks them, what do you want? Not you saying, I know what you want. This government, the problem it has, in my mother tongue, it is called somebody who knows so much. In the Kiswahili inaitwa sijui Dr. Kimenyi. He knows everything. Don't tell me, I know what you need. Right now you need ugali. At 2, I know you need chapati. But it is me who is eating. Kenyans are not fools. They know what they want.
Maybe, Wakili, there's something that people are commenting and saying. They are saying that the delimitation of boundaries is going to bring them an extra. They call them MPs. It's going to bring them an extra
constituency
MPs. Though, of course, we know the Constitution caps it at 290. I think it would be good for you to explain to Kenyans what delimitation of boundaries will do if in case it is done, and how that would benefit or how that would hurt the nation if it was done.
Delimitation of boundaries ni kugawa eneo za uwakilishi ili kuleta usawa katika uwakilishi wa watu. It is the way to distribute resources of the country. One, resources of the country is distributed by population factors. Some constituencies have more people
than others, yes.
Others have less people. So in delimitation, they are trying to say, here we want an even number, at least nearer. Not one constituency having 500,000 people, another one having 3,000. Number 2, the distance. Schools are going to be allocated in terms of a walking distance for a child. Some areas are so big that a school here will only serve Omari's children. The next family, Omari's neighbor, is 10 kilometers away. So they have got to look for a way to cater for the children of the other community. Third is representation. CDF is allocated equally per constituency. So the resources are going to be allocated in terms of that issue. Fourth, the wards in a constituency, there are wards. And within the wards, there are provincial administrative units called locations, where the chief is, sub-county, nowadays they are called sub-county units. They will be allocated in terms of how the administrative and political boundaries have been made. The way the police work, they go in terms of constituencies, in terms of sub-counties, and in some in those areas. So police stations, police posts will be allocated based on that. Recruitment to government services, recruitment to the police, recruitment to the National Youth Service, recruitment to administration police, GSU, recruitment of the teachers is based on those boundaries. So the more the boundaries are, the more government services is brought to the people. The judiciary must have in each county a court. Now the judiciary transformation policy, each sub-county is supposed to have a court around there. So the resources of government under devolution moved from the central government to the community. That is why delimitation of boundaries is very, very careful. But what do the politicians do? The wards where they have opponents, they remove them and take them to the other constituency. And bring where they have married from, where their grandfather married from, they bring that ward into their area. The governors do that. They remove opposition, so it is more...
Can you actually just do that? It's as though we're playing Monopoly here, that you can just actually move people from one ward to the next. Is that what happens?
That's what they want, because actually some of the things they are saying is, some constituencies are literally tribal constituencies.
Yes, they are.
Like, we are this tribe, and if you move the boundary, you'll mix this tribe and this tribe.
Yes.
And those are the considerations that Kenyans are having.
Or this is a clan.
Or this is a clan.
Remove the clan that is against us and return the clan that is for us. And that is why it is very explosive. Delimitation of boundaries is a very, very explosive issue. And why the Constitution says it must be done, but it has limited the number to 290. Because otherwise, we could be having a constituency of 2 people, where the member of parliament and his wife are the only voters. Then he is safe to be re-elected. The sitting members of parliament, the sitting legislators are looking for friendly delimitation to chase off opponents. The opponents are looking for delimitation in a manner that will jeopardize the sitting members to lose their seats. Okay. It is a political process.
All right.
And this issue is so glaring, and you have seen the comments. Kenyans don't trust this process because today I know some wards where in every delimitation they are moved to another area.
So you're under a different area the next time.
You are under a different area. The next delimitation, you are under a different area. So there's no continuity. 2, clans have been cut. Your mother's house is on this side, and you are here, the boundary passes here. You are in this ward, your mother is in this ward. It is so grave issue. Your grave of your parents will be on the another ward, your grave will be on the other ward. It is so sentimental, and it is a very explosive issue that needs to be done with a lot of transparency and justification.
One question that has come up very quite some this morning has been, and from a legal point of view, what would be the problem in having a former registrar of political parties as now a commissioner in the IEBC, according to the law? Why is there a grey area here?
The IEBC Act bars those who contested. For now, it might be a very bad law, but that is the law. It never expressly said that any former commissioner, like the Commission of Political Parties, cannot contest. But it's a moral question. And that is going to be decided by the courts. Is she conflicted by her being now an IEBC commissioner? All the dispute about political parties were before her. Is she knowing so much to the disadvantage of others? But that one, as I said, the law as it is, she has not committed any offense. She applied. There was no law that bars her from having gotten that. For example, you see the IEBC commissioner, former Isaac Hassan,
yes,
is now the IPOA commissioner. There is no law that stops you that once you have been in this position, you must retire and go home, die like that.
But actually, Wakili, allow me to...